practices across the community. Over the past 2 years, we have tirelessly engaged with various sectors, including schools, colleges, corporate entities, and other institutions, reaching hundreds with our invaluable expertise. Our collaboration with Monash University underscores our commitment to excellence, providing our members with opportunities to upskill through concessional access to low FODMAP courses. The initiative has empowered certificate dietitians with an additional 50 individuals currently benefiting from this partnership. To further our mission, we regularly host Dietopedia, a monthly online continuing nutrition education series, and Meraki, our journal club presentations, fostering continuous learning and knowledge exchange among our members. We seize every opportunity to educate the public, actively participating in health events and creating awareness on a multitude of health related topics. During the challenging times of the pandemic, we demonstrated our resilience by organizing a groundbreaking 12-hour webinar earning recognition in the Asian records through the Universal World Records Forum, an accomplishment that highlights our dedication to knowledge dissemination even in the face of adversity. Our commitment extends to research, and we take pride in our dedicated research team. Currently, our United Pan Kerala paper is in the publication process, marking a significant milestone in our pursuit of contributing valuable insights to the field of nutrition. As we continue our journey, the Community Nutrition Forum remains steadfast in its mission to empower, educate, and inspire positive changes in the nutrition habits, ensuring a healthier and more vibrant future for our community. For the past 2 years, we were dedicated volunteer forum. With the grace of Almighty and support of all our team members, we have registered our forum on December 6 to 2023 under Indian Government NGO Trust. We are also blessed to have our dear Dr. Mohan sir as a first resource person just post after our registration. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Shri Shaji to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Mohan sir. Welcome, Shri.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. And thank you, sir, for this opportunity. Before introducing sir, I think I need not introduce sir. Actually, it is a privilege and honor for me to introduce sir. But before introducing sir, I thought of sharing some of the life experiences. Since I was born and brought up in Chennai, I was born in the place called Shermanpet, my maternal grandparents' place it is. There that was the generation when the parents and grandparents want their children to educate, especially education were getting more of importance during those days. So I have been constantly shown with such people, especially Dr. Solayappan, Dr. Vishwanathan, and so many of these people. So today, it is really a honor for us as a CNF member to have this event. We are contributing to our dear beloved father and father of diabetology in India, Professor M. Vishwanathan. And I'm really proud and blessed to have worked in MV Diabetes Center. So again, I had that opportunity to work and witness how efficiently they do all these things. And I have been constantly inspired by his work. In fact, this Researchopedia Vedaki initiation was, I have seen the photograph of Dr. M. Vishwanathan sitting with a very small group of 5 people and having his research discussions. That photo, I don't have a copy of it, but it was there in the museum. So this was the wonderful memory I wanted to share with everyone. This is a real inspiration for me to bring up such ideas. And so this is a wonderful day. We are dedicating all these activities to, this year we are dedicating all our activities to Professor M. Vishwanathan. So again, that is a wonderful moment for CNF. And it is going to be the milestone moment again because we have Dr. Mohan here. Dr. Mohan is the eldest son of Professor M. Vishwanathan. But the another interesting story is I completed my graduation in 2001 in Chennai Koidamilat College. In 2000, there was a film called Alaipayde released. And we all had a mass bunk and booked for that. Then finally, a week before, our HOD said, Dr. Mohan is coming for another college, whoever wants to go. So we canceled the booking and we don't want to see Maddie, then we wanted to see our Mohan sir. And we really got a wonderful knowledge. And till date, I haven't seen Alip by this, sir. So that is how Mohan sir is better than our film stars. He is the superhero. So let me have this time and moment to introduce sir. Entering in the field of diabetes treatment and research, and you will witness the significant influence of Dr. Mohan, not only as a prominent figure, but also as an empathetic leader. His Mohan's Diabetes Center is, getting acknowledged for, I think, 9th year. This time also they are #1 in diabetology research. So they have transformed lives. Excuse me, can you please mute? As the chairman of Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Speciality Center in Chennai, South India, Dr. Mohan has not only significantly influenced the field of diabetes treatment, but also become a symbol of hope, motivation for numerous individuals, especially in type 1 diabetes people. Central to his path is a dedication to comprehending diabetes in its entirely. Under his guidance, the center has become distinguished IDF Center of Excellence in Diabetes Care, supervising a network of 50 centers and serving more than 6 million enrolled patients. However, for Sir, the significance extends beyond mere numerical figures. It encompasses the individuals he has influenced and optimism he has fostered. Sir has highly esteemed figure in the field of research, focusing on various complex aspects. He has been marked as the, I think, #2 position in India. #1, I think, position in India under the research activities. And their paper has been having the high impact in the scientific research field. And their complex aspects of research in diabetes includes epidemiology, genetics, and precision medicine. The extensive collection of 1635 research papers, that is 1635 papers consisting of 1052 original pieces, demonstrate not only the individual's academic excellence, but also a profound aspiration to enhance the quality of life via the acquisition and dissemination of information. In addition to his contribution to scholarly publications, Sir has influence extend a very personal level. He has provided training and guidance to healthcare workers around the world, instilling not only knowledge, but also a deep commitment to improving patient care. I think a diabetes educator program also initiated from Dr. Mohan's center. And his guidance has been crucial in inspiring and fostering dedication among many individuals and managing diabetes. The distinctions granted to Sir, such as Dr. Harold Ricken Award and Fellowship of Royal Society of Edinburgh, not only acknowledge his accomplishments, but also validate the positive impact he has on others. His philanthropic endeavors, offering lifelong complementary medical care to people via free diabetic clinics, demonstrates a dedication to ensuring that financial circumstances never hinder access to high-quality healthcare services. The influence of Dr. Mohan extends beyond the boundaries of clinic and research laboratories. He has implemented a program that provides free diabetes checkups and treatments to the underprivileged communities in slums, residential colonies, and rural villages that he has chosen to support. His memoir titled Making Excellence a Habit, the Man of Excellence. He has made it as his personality too. And the secret to constructing a world-class healthcare system in India is more than just a chronicle of professional achievements. It is a tribute to a lifetime commitment to the affecting changes. And another interesting book Sir has also done is Bose and Banting. And Dr. Mohan's impact extends beyond his role in as a medical practitioner. He has inspired the communities he has lifted. He has also awarded the India's prestigious award, Padma Shri, in 2012. And recently, Sir has received the award from Dr. Murmu for his excellence in diabetes care. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Shall I proceed with the presentation now? Or?
Please, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sri Priya, and to all of you, Shereen Thomas, and to all the distinguished nutritionists of Kerala. It's a great privilege for me to address you because I am originally from Kerala, although I've never lived there. I was born there, but my father had already migrated to Chennai even before his marriage. So, and he came to study here, and he generally stayed on here. But I have a lot of relatives in different parts of Kerala. My son-in-law is from Trichur, so we keep going there quite often. But also my aunt, Dr. Subhadra, who also got Padma Shri a few years ago, 4 5 years ago, I think. She is 94, and she is the senior most obstetrician gynecologist of Kerala. I think she's the first obstetrician, father's younger sister, and she's still alive. And so I go to Trivandrum and have lots of other family members. My wife is from Kollam, so we have a lot of connections with Kerala. So it's with great nostalgia that I speak to you. Let me share the screen. Is it seen, Sripriya? Is it seen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in the interest of time, congratulating you all for registering your body. I'm sure within a short time you have done so much, and nice to see the unity of all of you all coming together for a good cause. I'm
Hello,
sure
sir.
that
Hello, sir.
so I'm sure that a lot of good work can be done. Kerala has 100% literacy, and people are waiting to get correct information. As others have told before me, there's so much of fake news and wrong news spread on social media that we all have to give the correct views on things. Only then it balances out. Otherwise, only one side, the wrong side, is heard. On that note, after thanking all of you for inviting me to Diabetes 2023 and also dedicating it to my father, he richly deserves this. I've titled my talk as the quintessential of nutritional research in relation to diabetes in India. I have no conflict of interest to declare, although I do work with many companies, and as I go along, I'll show you that for example, I work with the nuts, various nut corporations, and do their studies. But we try to keep all the conflicts aside, in the sense that when we do a study, we tell them that even if we get a bad result, we will publish it, and you have no role in the conduct of the study or in its publication. So that's something which we make. Most of the studies are funded by international agencies. A lot of universities we work with as well. So this is the kind of a start of this. My career, my father started the first diabetic clinic in Stanley in 1948. But in 70 actually, he had to leave Stanley and start something privately near Washmanpet in Roypuram. And that's when I joined him. I was at that time just out of school and deciding to do what to do. I didn't even think I'll take up medicine. In fact, my father had not left Stanley, I don't think I would have even taken up medicine. I would have done literature, poetry, which is my first love. But at that time, in 1971, when I joined medical college, I straight away started working with my father at the age of 18. And this study came out at that time, Professor Ahuja's multi-center study of ICMR. When you say multi-center, it just had 6 places, 6 cities, and Trivandrum was actually included in that, but Chennai was not. Delhi, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Trivandrum, and a couple of other centers. And there, what he reported was that 2% of urban Indians above the age of 20 had diabetes, and about 1% of rural India. Over the years, this percentage kept increasing. 2 became 4, 5, 11, 12. And now the latest studies we have now in Diab, I'll talk about it later. But at that time, we were only doing, and you can see Ernakulam also there. Vijay Kumar did a study in Kerala. There's another study by Raman Kutti from Trivandrum in Kerala. So there are a few Kerala studies, but not the whole state, and certainly not the whole of Tamil Nadu. In fact, no single state has been studied. Dr. Ramchandran, who is also my brother-in-law, he is married to my sister, who's 1 year elder to me. So he did a study, but he did only the cities. This time Chennai was included, Chennai, Bombay, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and so on. But he didn't do the rural areas, as you can see. So all these studies were there, and they're not comparable strictly, but still the message is clear. From 2% to 20% is a huge increase in prevalence. In about 40-50 year period. Now, when my next generation came along, my daughter, who is now the managing director of our center, Dr. Anjana, she came and told me, all these studies, they're meaningless because they're not representative of India. They only represent that city or that region. So how can we extrapolate to the whole country? And that is why she came up with this idea of sampling the whole country. She said, I want to do the whole country, state by state by state. Such a massive exercise in epidemiology had not only been not done in India, but nowhere in the world. For example, if you take a US study or an Australian study or a UK study, China study, they'll study, one place there, one there, one there, one there. So 4 or 5 places they'll study, and they'll say this is representative of that particular country. But Indian government didn't want that. ICMR said each state is like a country in our country. Therefore, they have their own health. State is a health subject. Therefore, health is a state subject. So, for example, I cannot take Kerala data and take it to Tamil Nadu. I cannot take Andhra Pradesh data and take it to Gujarat. They are not going to, accept it. So they said you have to study the whole state. That's how all the 29 states, later it became 30 states because Andhra got divided after we did the study. And the total sample size is 124,000 individuals, representative of India's 1.44 billion people, totally representative sample. Took the help of the Indian Population Institute in Mumbai to do the study. Now, many papers have been published from Diab. This is the 17th paper, ICMR Diab 17th paper. Many of them are published in the Lancet, and this also was published in the Lancet Diabetes. And what this paper showed was very significant because it is a complete metabolic non-communicable diseases, metabolic NCD health report of India, not just diabetes, pre-diabetes, but hypertension, obesity. Everything was studied, dyslipidemia, in the same study, in the same paper. So you can imagine what a massive paper that is. And this created tremendous amount of interest. Published only about 6 months ago in June of this year, because it took 15 years to complete the whole study. To study the whole of India is very, very difficult. And finally, we managed to publish with a almost 95% response rate. Now, these are the new numbers for India, which you should know. Very often the old numbers, 70 million, 72 million, are quoted. The new number for India is 101 million people. And you can quote this paper as the most authoritative paper, and the IDF, WHO, all of them are quoting this number. So 101 million people have diabetes in India. 136 million people have pre-diabetes in India. So if you add diabetes and pre-diabetes, it's 237 million people. Now, I don't know how many of you know about the population of countries. There are not many countries in the world which have a population of 237 million. Of course, India is there, China is there. China is in second place, as you know. India has overtaken China. We are the most populous country in the world now. China, and then there's US, and I think there's Indonesia. That's about it. No other country has more than 230 million people. We're just talking about the number of people with diabetes alone in India. And even higher is the number of hypertension, obesity. Look at central obesity, abdominal obesity. 351 million people. I think there are only 3 countries in the world which have a population, or I think only 2 countries in the world which have a population above 350 million. That's India and China. Even the United States has a lower population than 350 million people. So these are staggering numbers. And if you can imagine the amount of damage this can do. And in each of these, nutrition plays a role. Diabetes, pre-diabetes, hypertension, obesity, hypercholesterolemia. In each of these, you have a role to play. So these numbers are not small. And just out of interest for you, Kerala and Goa had the highest prevalence among all the states that we studied. So about 25% of Kerala, 1 in 4 adults in Kerala, whether it's an urban area or rural area, has diabetes. And Kerala was another exception, that rural Kerala had higher prevalence of diabetes than urban Kerala. No other state in India had higher prevalence in the rural area. And the reason for that is that there is no urban-rural divide in Kerala. It's an artificial division. As you drive through Kerala, one town will become another town, and only when the board changes, it will be all like one road only. but they'll say now it's Angamali, now it is something else, now it is something else. Only when the board changes, oh, we have gone to another town. Otherwise, everything is one continuous thing in Kerala. And that is why the rural prevalence is very high. Now, more than the number of people with diabetes itself, we are worried about the number of people with complications. So we have very high prevalence of coronary artery disease, peripheral vascular disease, retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy. Just to put it into proper perspective, now these are again population-based studies. All these studies are ours in urban areas, rural areas, all are epidemiological-based studies. Now, if you take kidney disease, let's say roughly both in urban and rural, about 1 in 4 have kidney disease, which means at 100 million people with diabetes, 25 million people already have at least early kidney disease. I'm not saying they're all in renal failure, but they have at least microalbuminuria, the early stage of kidney disease. And even if you have a conservative estimate and you say out of this, only 20% will develop end-stage renal disease, that's still 5 million people with end-stage renal disease. That is more than the population of Denmark. It's the population of Singapore, just with end-stage renal disease in India, for which the only treatment is dialysis or transplantation. There's no other treatment. If you don't do these two, they will die. And dialysis and transplantation, only 2% of Indians can afford to do it. So if 5 million people develop end-stage renal disease, only 2% of them can afford to take the treatment. The rest will die, okay, if you don't treat. So it's a very serious problem that we have in our hand, and Kerala being the biggest state. Of course, Goa also had high prevalence. Goa is a very small place. It's not like Kerala. So if you take all the states in India, Kerala has the highest percentage of diabetes, and therefore you will get a lot of these complications unless it is very well controlled. Now, Dr. Shri wanted me to include liver also in this because it's also considered one of the organs. Now, for this reason, we recently wrote, Dr. Krishna Sheshadri is a very well-known endocrinologist in Chennai, very recently wrote in this particular journal. I am the editor-in-chief of this journal of Diabetology. So in this, we wrote an article saying, no longer we should talk about diabetes care, we should talk about metabolic care. And we specifically talk about the liver in this. And we are saying that the liver, fatty liver, all this is part of diabetes treatment. And it's not, so you cannot say glucose alone or diabetes alone. Anything which increases the fat in the body, and as nutritionists, you should be able to address that problem. That translates into metabolic care. Now, if you look at the non-alcoholic liver disease, this is 2009 publication, 14 years ago. We did an epidemiological study in Chennai and looked at, this is from the CURE study, and we looked at how many people had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And you can see that even among normal people in India, if you have NGT, normal glucose tolerance, 23% have fatty liver. Among pre-diabetics, it increases to 33%. And then among people with diabetes, 55%. That means 1 in 2 with type 2 diabetes has fatty liver. Now, if you have diabetes and hypertension and obesity, it goes to 72%. And this is like 15 years ago. Today, it's much higher, much higher. If you have diabetes and obesity, it's over 80%. 85% of all those with diabetes and obesity will have fatty liver. Okay. Now, coming back to the diabetes epidemic, you saw that increase from 2% to 25%. Is it due to genetic factors or is it due to environmental factors? Although it's tempting to blame our genes, the fact that in 1972, I was alive at that time, many of you may not have been alive at that time. So in 1972, 2% of people in the cities had diabetes, now it's 25%. Our genes didn't change in 50 years. What genetic change occurred in 50 years? It's the same genes, same people. But if the diabetes has increased, it is due to environmental factors. The environment has completely changed. In 1972, we were very different India from what we are now. In fact, in 1991, the country almost became bankrupt. At that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister of India and Narasimha Rao was the prime minister. And at that time, they decided that unless India opens up and allows foreign investment, until that time, foreign investment is not allowed. India was trying to be a very closed economy. They realized that India will become bankrupt unless foreign economy comes in, foreign investment comes in. That's how India opened up its shores to allow foreign investment to come in. The moment that was done, India started developing. Socio-economic status of people went up. For example, Kerala, so much of foreign money from the Middle East started coming. Kerala started becoming rich. If you start driving through Kerala, you'll see some of the houses are so big, they're like palaces. So complete change has occurred not only in Kerala but all over India. So the environmental factors are what changed. So put it diagrammatically or represented in the form of figures. 50, 60 years ago, people lived simple lives. They were working in the field, they were carrying weights and so on. Today, everybody carries only a cell phone to the head. They don't carry weights and so on today. Children used to play in the fields. Even when I was young, we used to go to the field and play cricket and play all kinds of things. Today, it's not even safe. Children get kidnapped. They don't have places now. All the playgrounds are being converted into residential complexes and so on. So they're all playing computer games and video games, and they're sitting all the time instead of running around. So physical activity has also come down. Then from the traditional meals which were being served at that time, post 1991, late 1990s and 2000s, what happened was that the software engineer IT industry took off. And with that, our people started working, our youngsters started working to US timing. So when you start working to US timing, you're working in the night. That means your sleep also goes off. And then at that time in the night, what do they eat? They'll order in some food, and all high calorie junk foods are ordered in. So three main changes occur: excess carbohydrate and increased glycemic load and excess calories. Of course, fat also comes in. There's decreased physical activity, and there's urbanization. Urbanization includes some new things which we found recently. You would have seen in the papers our work being quoted: air pollution, particle PM 2.5 as another risk factor for diabetes. Now, those are emerging things, and I'm not going into that in this lecture. I'll talk mostly about the diet and a little bit about physical activity towards the end. So let's see, is there evidence that by taking excess carbs and increasing the glycemic load that is related to type 2 diabetes? Now, the first studies that we did, just excuse me for a minute, somebody is continuously calling me. Just take a minute. I'm giving a talk. Please call me after half an hour, 1 hour. Okay. Sorry, just about a patient's. I'll get back later. So this is a paper which we published in British Journal of Nutrition in 2009, where we looked at dietary carbohydrate, glycemic load, and various other factors in Chennai. This is a very beautifully designed study called CURE study, Chennai Urban Rural Epidemiological Study. That study went on to publish 160 papers in top class journals. This is paper number 59 from that study, published in British Journal of Nutrition. We asked a simple question: is there evidence that by taking more carbohydrate, you get more diabetes? And the results are shown here. If you divide Chennai into 4 quartiles based on the carb, of course, everybody is taking carbohydrate, but within that, you divide into the first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, fourth quartile. What is the difference in the amount of carbohydrate? About 200 grams is the reference. So the lowest quartile in Chennai, in Kerala, already take 200 grams of carbohydrate. Okay, in the West, even the top quartile will not take 200 grams. For us, our starting point itself is 200 grams. From there, it increases 250, 300, 400. Now, if you go to 400 grams, the fourth quartile, and compare that with 200 grams, that means just doubling of the carbohydrate intake per day. Okay, diabetes prevalence goes up from 1-fold to 4-fold. So what does it mean? If you put a number here, let's say it's 8% here, this will be 32%. It's 6% here, 24%. Okay, so it's not going up from 8 to 10%. It's going 4-fold, into 4 is the prevalence of diabetes if you take more carbohydrate. How much carbohydrate taking? Just double, from 200 to 400 grams. You may say, isn't that due to overweight? They're eating more, therefore they must be obese. So it's obesity which is causing it, not the rice. We have corrected for that. If you look at the bottom of the table, we have corrected for age, gender, family history, income, calories, smoking, physical activity. Everything we have adjusted for. In spite of adjusting for that, there's huge increase. Now, therefore, this is the first evidence. Until then, nobody had shown that carbohydrate is related to diabetes. Okay, but it's a cross-sectional study. Cross-sectional study has some confounders for which you cannot correct. For example, in a cross-sectional study, you are measuring at a given point of time all those living in that area. Suppose somebody had died, you cannot catch them when you do a cross-sectional study. That's one of the confounders of this. Whatever you adjust for, there is still confounding. And you can see the mean glycemic load is also very high. Now let's look at it in another way. Let's look at it in terms of carbohydrate itself. As your carbohydrate goes from first quartile to fourth quartile, the diabetes prevalence goes up 4.5 times. Let's look at glycemic index. It is going up. Glycemic load, definitely going up. Glycemic load, you know, is the amount of glycemic index multiplied by the amount consumed of the of that food. Okay. Now, if this is correct, if this theory is correct, if you do healthy things, then you should see a decrease. For example, vegetables or fiber, let us say. If you take more fiber, the diabetes should go down. That's a kind of validation. You can see that when dietary fiber goes up, the diabetes prevalence has actually gone down. 0.31 means there's a 69% reduction in diabetes prevalence in those who consume fourth quartile of, that means more of dietary fiber. So more dietary fiber you take, less of diabetes. I'm sure you know all this. This is nothing new I'm telling you, but I'm giving you Indian evidence. There is a difference. You are just reading from a book. I'm giving you actual studies done in populations. Okay. Now, so this is very strong evidence that carbohydrate is related to diabetes, but it is still a cross-sectional study. If you want to really prove it, you have to do a longitudinal study. What do you mean by longitudinal study? You take people, a population, a district, or a particular area. In our case, we took different cities. Now, we took people, a very large sample size of people who did not have diabetes when we started the study. And then as we went along, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we followed the same individuals. And then we saw that some developed diabetes. So we now went back to their baseline 15 years ago and said, what were they eating then which produced a diabetes? If they're eating more rice then or more carbohydrate then that is a proof. They didn't have diabetes. They've been eating more rice and they get diabetes. So that is a longitudinal study. For this, we use data from the PURE study. Now, the PURE study is called Prospective Urban Rural Epidemiological Study. PURE. PURE is from Chennai. This is actually the whole world is involved here. And we have one center in Trivandrum, Dr. Ramankutti and others, and one center in Bangalore, St. John's, Chennai, Jaipur, and Chandigarh. So there are the following centers are there. Now we have been giving data on these people continuously to them. Okay, and one of my PhD students, Baudarani, who did her PhD on gestational diabetes, later she went to work with Dr. Salim Yusuf. Dr. Salim Yusuf, as you know, is from Kerala. He is from St. John's, and he's one of the world leaders in epidemiology. He can be rated among the top 1 or 2 epidemiologists in the world. And so this is a massive, you can see the number of authors in this. We asked a very simple question. Is white rice intake related to incident diabetes or longitudinal diabetes? Look at the number of people studied, 132,000. Huge study. Never such a study has been done. How many countries? 21 countries have participated in this. 5 centers in India, and like this, China, Africa, Europe, Canada, and South America, other parts of Asia, other parts of South Asia, and so on. Okay. Now let's look at the rice consumption. If you look at it, South Asia has very high, this is cooked rice. The other one I showed you was uncooked rice. This is cooked rice, 630 grams per day. Now South Asia includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. 3 countries were included in this. Look at the amount of rice consumed. As you go down, this is Southeast Asia. So this has Thailand, Malaysia, and so on. It's less. And then you go to China. China has now started decreasing their rice intake. So it's already gone down. And then in other parts, it's very low. Look at Europe, virtually no rice consumed. Okay. So this is the distribution. So what will you expect? If the rice hypothesis is correct, then South Asia should show the strongest association. Look at the results. In South Asia, the hazards ratio for type 2 diabetes, incident type 2 diabetes, is 1.61. If you all don't know what is hazards ratio, if it is 1, now this is 1, okay? If it is 1, it means there's no association. If it is less than 1, 0.5, 0.4, that means it's protective. Remember, I showed you 0.3, 1 for fiber in my earlier slide. Now here is 1.61. That means 61% more type 2 diabetes in South Asia, which has the largest consumption of rice, very strongly associated. In China, it's only 4% higher risk. It is not statistically significant because China is only consuming 200 grams of rice, 1/3 of what South Asia is taking. In the rest of the world, 1.41, 41% increase, and overall in the pure population, put the whole world together, 20% increase, and it's statistically significant. It doesn't touch that line. If it is not coming there, in China it's crossed, so it is not statistically significant. That means it is significant. Next, we ask one more question. Suppose in South Asia also, those who are consuming rice, they do exercise. Will it reduce the risk? And that is shown here. If you're physically inactive, 50% increase risk if you take rice. If you do physical activity, it's 1.16, 16% increase, but it's now crossed 1, as you can see, it's 0.97. So statistical significance is gone. So if you do enough physical activity, even if you take rice, the risk is mitigated. The risk is reduced very much. So we concluded that higher consumption of white rice associated with increased risk of incident diabetes, with strongest association in South Asia, while in others it was modest and in some it was non-significant, like China. Now, what rice are we talking about? Obviously, white rice, polished white rice, has a very high glycemic index. This is published in the Asia Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition, where we looked at rice which is totally polished, not so much polished, under milled rice, and we took brown rice. You can see with brown rice, it is only 57, your GI, whereas with white rice, it is near 80, and with under milled rice, it's 73. That means what we concluded was even minimal polishing of Indian parboiled brown rice variety also leads to increased glycemic responses. Now we did okay with the Harvard School of Public Health. Walt Willett, whom you know is the god of nutrition, and Frank Yu, and Donna Spiegelman and Vasanthi Malik, whom I'm meeting in 6 weeks' time in Toronto. We did a study. We did a randomized clinical trial. What we did was we gave white rice, substituted it with brown rice, and we saw what happens to the glucose level. So this is the final proof of the pudding. First we did cross-section study, then we did longitudinal study. Now we're doing an RCT, which is the final proof. And look at the responses. These are continuous glucose monitoring curves. These are done in non-diabetic people. We put a patch. The patch will measure the glucose level. So if you give white rice, then you give brown rice, and the black is brown rice with pulses, kadala, cherubara, all these kind of things. So you can see that with white rice, high blood sugar levels, it's red, okay? The blue is with brown rice, and the black, still lower, is when you add pulses to the brown rice. So obviously, if you take pulses with brown rice, it is the best. Next best is brown rice, and the worst is white rice. We're able to publish that. The effect was more in those with metabolic syndrome. If you had obesity, if you had diabetes or glucose intolerance, the change in HbA1c, if you just change from white rice to brown rice, HbA1c comes down. Whereas in the white rice group, it did not come down. Okay, but in those without metabolic syndrome, it's not so effective. It's not so bad. So if you're very thin, you're exercising, then nothing happens to you. And that's why in 1970s, we didn't have much diabetes. They were all running, jogging, working in the field, lifting weights, agriculturists, farmers. So they ate rice, nothing happened to them. So very often we are asked, oh, that time also we used to eat rice, there's no diabetes, then why are you blaming rice? That time they were doing physical activity, and the rice was also not so much polished. And you can see inflammatory changes also are more with the white rice, C-reactive protein, whereas it is decreased with brown rice. Okay. Now, so far we talked about the quantity of the carbohydrate. What about the quality of carbohydrate? There are bad carbs and there are good carbs. These are the bad carbs. You all know this. Sweetened drinks, fruit juices, highly polished white rice, white bread, cookies, pastry, ice cream, candy, chocolate, potato chips, French fries. Now, all these are to be restricted, avoided in people with diabetes. But there are also good carbs, green, leafy, non-starchy vegetables. You can eat as much as you want. Whole fruits, particularly the lower GI ones. Legumes, kidney beans, peas, lentils, nuts, walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, seeds, sunflower seed, pumpkin seed, chia seeds, whole grain, brown rice, oats, quinoa. All these are good carbs which can be included in moderation. Here are a series of papers we did on oils. So we looked at various vegetable oils. We looked at the risk of metabolic syndrome with fat. We looked at dietary fatty acid composition of adults, series of publications in that. To just cut the long story short, traditional oils like gingerly oil or groundnut oil, okay, are the best. If you look at the risk for metabolic syndrome is a combination of high glucose, blood pressure, dyslipidemia, and abdominal obesity. That is metabolic syndrome. When you go from there to palm oil, it increases. And from palm oil to sunflower oil, PUFA, you think PUFA is very good, but the ratio of N6 to N3 is not good in PUFA, and therefore there is increased metabolic syndrome. What about fruits and vegetables? Just like I showed you with fiber, if that is correct, that all these polished grains are bad, then with the healthy fruit and vegetables, you should see decrease in cardiovascular risk. That's exactly what we showed. As you go to the higher fruit and vegetable intake, you can see the body, the waist circumference coming down, LDL coming down. So these are definitely healthy, and we should encourage our people to have the plate concept, where half the plate is vegetables, quarter of the plate is protein, and quarter of the plate is healthy carbohydrate. What about milk? There's a lot of myth around milk, saying that milk is bad, milk is a cause of diabetes, particularly from the west of India. If you take Mumbai and Gujarat, and particularly in Mumbai, there are one or two dietitians, they are very vociferous. And they say, we just stop milk, diabetes will go away in India. Totally untrue. We saw this in our epidemiological studies. First, we saw it in cups and cures, where we found that milk was actually seeming to have protective effect. Then we went to pure. In pure, we are studying the whole world. And when we looked at milk consumption, dairy products, particularly yogurt, we found it to be protective. Then very recently, we published this in the Indian Journal of the Indian Institute of Science, you know, the IISc in Bangalore, the best research institute in the whole country. So they have a very prestigious journal. And there we did a systematic review and meta-analysis of all the studies, where we looked at milk, yogurt, cheese, butter, everything we looked at in relation to incident diabetes, new onset longitudinal studies, whichever has been done in the world. We collected every study and we looked at Asians, non-Asians, everybody looked at. What we found was that total dairy and fermented dairy, particularly plain yogurt, it's not flavored yogurt, it's not sweetened yogurt, it's not strawberry yogurt or mango yogurt. I'm talking about just thyroid. Okay, so yogurt is actually protective against new onset diabetes. Milk, cheese, and other dairy products have a neutral effect. Not one study was able to show bad effect of dairy. So you don't have to give up dairy at all. Dairy can be consumed. It's a good source of calcium. It's a good source of protein. It's a wholesome food. So please encourage people to take dairy and clear this myth that milk is bad for you. Milk is not bad for you. Okay, thousands of years we have taken it. Milk is not bad at all. Now, this is another study which we published quite recently, where we looked at higher intake of dairies associate lower cardiometabolic. We have about 6-7 papers now, from pure, from this, from cure. Any study we do, same result. We do meta-analysis, same result we're getting. So here we looked at is associate lower cardiometabolic risk and metabolic syndrome in prospective studies. And you have lower BP, BMI, fasting blood sugar, everything it's useful in controlling. So actually milk is protective. It's actually good for cardiometabolic disorders. What about millets? This is a year of the millets, okay? And we all know about major millets and minor millets, and I'm not going to go into that. You know this better than me. But what about we all know that if you look at the nutrient properties of millets, 70% of carbohydrate they contain. This is something people don't, they think millets don't contain carbohydrate. Millet is also a form of carbohydrate only. It's a grain. So this also contains 60 to 70% carbohydrate. Of course, it's a little richer in protein compared to rice. It's a little richer in protein. They are also rich in dietary fiber. However, they're deficient in soluble fiber. Okay, so millets are all good, no doubt about it. The best thing about millets is it's very good for the soil. It doesn't take up more of water. That is why the government is promoting it in a big way. Of course, they have some health benefits. They have some phytonutrients. They are good. But the problem is we have done a lot of studies on millets. And we have looked at market surveys, what happens when you polish millet, because all the millets in the market are polished, unfortunately. So are they the same as the original millets? Okay. And microstructure we have studied. We have looked at new product development. We've done glycemic index studies. We've done continuous glucose monitoring. So many studies on millets we have done. To cut along, and here are some of the publications in IJMR and many other top quality journals. Now, if you look at the millets in the market, we've studied all the millets in the Chennai market. It must be the same as in Kerala. Almost all of them are polished millets. Unpolished millets are very, very few. We've gone to all the supermarkets, 100 stores we have visited, okay? 48 brands we have looked at. There are a lot of misleading claims. They're whole grain, they're diabetic friendly, they're low glycemic index. All these they keep claiming. But when you actually study, they're all highly polished, and they'll show you how they look like. Now, this is how the unpolished millet will look like, okay? And in stereo microscopy, stereo zoom microscopy, you can see these are the millets we get in the market. Just look at them. You know, it's just like brown rice and white rice. You can see they're all white in color, okay? So they're highly polished. Whichever millet you take, this is what you want, the one on top. But the one you get is like this, okay? And if you look at the glycemic index of millets, they actually have a high glycemic index, okay? And because when you polish, protein also goes away, mineral goes away, okay? And the dietary fiber also goes. So polished millets are not very different from white rice. So you don't have to force people to change from rice to millet, especially if they're cutting down and they don't like it. Why are you forcing them to eat something which they don't like? If they like it, fine, let them take it. But if they don't like it, let them continue rice, cut down on the rice. That is enough. That solves your problem, okay? Now, unpolished millets have lower glycemic index, polished millets have higher glycemic index. So with this in mind, we have a food technology division now at our center, where we are trying to develop products which are healthy. So you can look at these, they are all brown now, okay? These are unpolished. So we have multi-millet porridge mix and muesli and pulses and biscuits and sorghum, gluten-free sorghum pasta and excluded snacks. We've got a whole department now making these healthy products. We are wondering now how to take it to the market, because we are not, food distributors. So we can make this product, but somebody has to take it forward. And so if you know somebody who's interested in that, let us know. We can collaborate and take this forward. We can develop the product and then give it to them. What about nuts? Now, the story I keep telling very often, but I'd like to repeat it. It's a true story. So I went to third year medicine, and the first day I went to the first day in the clinics with patients, finish anatomy physiology, gone to the clinics. So that's where you meet the clinicians, where they teach you. And one of my professors asked us, small group of us who are from third year medicine, he asked us, what is the best way to commit suicide? So we thought this guy is trying to kill himself or something. A stunned silence, all of us kept quiet. Oh, tell me. They won't keep quiet till you tell an answer. So each one of us said, take a gun and shoot yourself, jump off some big building, walk into the sea, all kinds of suggestions we gave to him, how to commit suicide. He said, no, it's very simple. Just eat 6 cashew nuts every day. In 6 months, you'll die. It's a nice way of committing suicide, he said. So that got into my mind that nuts are bad, particularly cashew nut is bad. This is what I thought. So I never used to allow my patients to eat any nuts 20 years ago, saying, hey, they're bad. It's like committing suicide, don't take and all that. This is what I was taught by my teachers. So I went into this with a negative bias, thinking that they're really bad, and with that I went. Now we did the study. Now this study is the first study on cashew nut, published in Journal of Nutrition. And so what we showed was that cashew nut increases the HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol. It reduces the blood pressure, and it had no effect on weight or on cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, or on HbA1c. Okay, in people with type 2 diabetes. This is a 12-week randomized clinical trial. Walt Willett is the last author of this. I'm sure you all know Walt Willett and his contributions. And we also have Jordi Salas from Spain, who's considered the god of nuts. All the nut research is done. He's the president of the Nut Council, International Nut Council, INC. So what we conclude is that a handful of nuts. And another interesting thing which happened was the cashew board had actually given us some support for this. So since you're from Kerala and cashew and all that, I'm telling the story. So the reporter who was Times of India published a big cashew nuts actually good for you. So before they published, they asked me, sir, by the way, was it salted or unsalted? I said, of course it is unsalted. If you take salt, how will your BP come down? So it's unsalted like this, whole cashew, nothing added, not roasted, no salt, nothing, just cashew as cashew. I said. They got upset. Why did you say it's unsalted? I said, because it's unsalted. That's why I said it's unsalted. But all our cashew is salted. I said, then change it. Remove the salt. Don't blame me for a thing. They asked me the truth. I told them it was unsalted. I'm saying blood pressure is coming down. How can I say with salt also blood pressure came down? Is it even possible when you take salt, blood pressure will come down? These are unsalted cashew. So when you take nuts, you don't have to roast them. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to add salt. Don't have to add oil. Don't have to fry them. Don't do anything. Just eat them as such. Okay. And these are the results. So you can see the blood pressure. The blue is intervention group and the other is a control group. You can see the reduction, systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, and the HDL going up after this. Okay. What about almonds? We have now worked on all the nuts. Some are published, some are under publication. This is almond. Of course, this was funded by the American, this is by the Almond Board of California. So again, what we did was we looked at insulin resistance, inflammatory markers, lipid markers, everything we did with almonds. Almonds are also found to be very good. We've just finished the pistachio trial. This is funded by the American Pistachio Growers Association, but they have nothing. They are in US. They only fund the study. Beyond that, they have nothing to do. We do the study, we publish it, we do everything. So you can see the almond was published in Frontiers of Nutrition last year. So where we found that they increase the MOFA content, decrease in carbohydrate, better satiety, improves insulin sensitivity, lower serum cholesterol. Jordi and Walter Willett were also part of this study. And so they are actually beneficial. The almonds, of course, almonds are much more expensive, whereas cashew is also expensive. And now we're doing a peanut study, groundnut study. We have not completed it. Now let me come to what are the 5 P's of a healthy diet. Okay, the 5 P's of a healthy diet. First is procure healthy food. Where are you procuring it from? That also is very important. Of course, organic, we all say, is it really organic? If it is really organic, it is better because there's no fertilizer, no adulterants added, nothing added. So procure healthy food in the natural form. So that's very important. Next is processed foods you avoid. So that's a second P. Wherever it's processed, try to have as natural as possible. Third is a plate concept. All of you know the plate concept. Half non-starchy, green leafy vegetables, water for protein. Either it can be veg protein or non-veg protein, whatever you like, but protein. Only quarter kept for carbohydrate. Next P is protein. So protein, you have to increase. With every meal, look for protein. That is the tip. And last P is portion size. So portion size is very important. You reduce the portion size. Whatever you take in limited quantities, whether it's rice or whatever. Portion size is very much to be. Even if you have a dessert, take a small portion of that, but don't overeat on anything. Can diabetes be reversed at a population level? Having done all this research for last 30, 40 years, and so much of epidemiological data, whole of India we have studied, every food pattern in India we have studied. Not all of it is published. We still have so much to publish. All the writing work is going on now. Now, we've also done on sweeteners. I'm not talking about this, but we find that sweeteners are not bad. If you use it in coffee and tea, just now, 10 minutes before your talk, I just finished writing the paper on sweetener sucralose study, where we have substituted sugar with sucralose. We are finding beneficial effects actually. It is not WHO gave a big scare saying that it is bad, do this, do that. It doesn't do anything. If you take in small quantities, it is okay. That's why portion size is very important. Now, to reverse it at a population level, what do you do? Now, you would have heard of direct trial and all these trials of reversal. They are going from, 50, 60% carbohydrate to almost 10% carbohydrate. That is not going to sustain in our country because every food, every meal is carbohydrate based, urban, rural. How can you cut off carbohydrate completely from our country? It is not going to work. It is not sustainable. So what we did was we took the help of mathematicians. Sheshadri Srinivasan is a very famous mathematician. So we used his help and took almost 2-3 years. We went on modeling. How much if you read, we took normals, we took pre-diabetics, we took diabetic from Diab. And then we had the dietary composition. What are these people? What are these people? What is it? So various combination permutation we tried. And what it turned out at the end of this very important paper published end of last year, December 2022, exactly a year ago, in Diabetes Care. And what we said was macronutrient recommendation for remission and prevention of diabetes in Indians. Turns out that only 10% if you lower the carbohydrate and increase the protein by 10%. Lower the carbohydrate 10%, increase the protein by 10%. That will automatically increase the fiber content also. Keep the fat the same, but take MUFA, monounsaturated fat, little bit of PUFA, cut off saturated fat, cut off trans fats. If you're able to do that, you don't have to decrease the fat, keep the fat the same, cut the carbohydrate, replace it with protein, and then that will automatically increase. If you take vegetable protein, that's better than animal protein, then it will increase your fiber content as well. This was followed by a beautiful commentary by Nita Faruhi. I'm sure all of you have heard of Nita Faruhi. She's from Cambridge, very well-known nutritionist from Cambridge. So she wrote a beautiful summary of this paper, okay? And then what she found was that at a population level, if you cut down, this is just a summary of our paper. What she's saying is decrease the carbohydrate, increase the protein, keep the fat the same, and increase the fiber. It can lead to remission of diabetes. And she's also brought in products, places, price, what all can be done. I would encourage you to read both that paper as well as the commentary, which gives you a very good idea as to what is to be done to prevent diabetes at a national level. Couple of words about physical activity. Physical activity is an independent risk factor for diabetes. An early study we did in Chennai in 2005. If you look at heavy physical activity, people who jog, run, do that, their diabetes prevalence at that time was 5%. And then moderate activity and light activity is sedentary people. Already at that time, 2005 itself, 17% had diabetes at that time. Now it's gone up further. So 3 times. Now this is irrespective of rice. We are not adjusted for rice and all here. So physical activity that's why I showed you, if you do physical activity, even in rice eaters, you can bring it down. The pure study I showed that data. Now there are 3 types of exercise that you do. And for this, I have coined this. It's called as a FAR principle, FAR. It is there in my videos. Flexibility, that is bending, touching toes. Aerobic exercise, jogging, swimming, cycling, walking, dancing, whatever you want. And resistance training. Resistance training, you don't have to do heavy weight lifting. Just 2 kg dumbbells, 4 kg dumbbells to strengthen your upper body, lower body. That is enough. So remember the FAR principle. Each one of them is useful for diabetes. Now, here are my 8 tips for a long and healthy life despite diabetes. Avoid unhealthy junk foods, reduce your total carbohydrate intake, use millets wherever possible, increase plant protein in the form of pulses, legumes, non-starchy vegetables, low glycemic index fruits and nuts. Consume less salt and sugar, drink enough water, stay hydrated, exercise regularly, try to be physically active throughout the day. Yoga is very good, do pranayama, breathing, sleep on time and get good sleep. And enough sleep, okay? So 6 to 8 hours, and you should sleep before midnight. 10 to 12 is the best time to sleep. Ideally around 10:30, 11 is the ideal time for sleep. So this is my concluding tips for you to take home. Healthier diets with lower carbs along with increased protein and fiber, along with increased physical activity can help to prevent and control type 2 diabetes in India. And if some of you want to contact me, you can take a picture of this. That's my email ID. Any of you are welcome to write to me. If you think we can have some collaboration in some way, please do write to me and we'll be happy to collaborate with you individually or through your association. And those are all my social media contacts. I have little more than 1 million followers now on all the social media. So YouTube has about 200-250 videos. Many of them are on diet. I'd encourage you to see them. Then I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. So if you're not followed me, please do in any of these if you are there. I'll be happy to constantly interact with you. And with that, I would like to thank you for your presence, for allowing me to be with you today. And now I'm ready to take any questions.
Thank you, sir. That was a really brief session. Actually, there is a question in chat box. One second.
Answer. Are protein supplements recommended people with diabetes? Are there any long-term negative impacts? Well, if you're a vegetarian, you probably need some supplement, because how much grams and pulses can you take? Because it leads to flatulence and gas trouble. I take every day, but I'm a turned a vegetarian now. I was a strict non-vegetarian, now I'm a strict vegetarian. But I find it difficult to take too much of, I take milk, but I can't take too much of grams and so on. It leads to bloating. And so then where do you get your protein supplement? So later on, I've started taking egg again, because I thought at least that will give me, so egg white I take every day. That gives me enough. But if you're a strict vegetarian, don't even take egg. Then where do you get? So taking protein supplement, I've been associated with the development of some of them with some companies, at least 3-4 companies I've worked with. So they produce slow release carbs with more protein, more fiber. They don't increase the glucose content. We have done the testing of them right from the design stage. We have been associated with them. So they're a very good protein supplement. If you're eating a healthy diet, probably you don't need it. Otherwise, it's not a bad idea to take a protein supplement. That much protein you straight away get. Do you have recommended professional athletes, or more and more people now involved? Well, you should, apart from doing the exercise, you should also eat healthy and be careful about overdoing your supplement part there. Whey protein, this protein, that protein, loading and loading yourself with some of the, I've seen creatinine go up and some side effects. Drink enough water, drink enough food, eat healthy. Of course, you need protein. You probably need a little more carbs, probably a little more calories. But otherwise, I think you are the best people to advise them. And there are people who are able to do all that now. Can we recommend full fat milk? Yeah. So in the pure study, we compared full fat versus normal fat versus lean and low fat. Uh, the thing is that low fat is not available in many countries. And Africa, where do you get low fat? Even in India, you don't get too much. So, and the number of countries, number of studies which had been done on low fat were less. But in general, we found the high fat ones did as well, and there were no side effects. The lipids didn't go up with the high fat dairy. So high fat dairy can be taken. What is your view on consumption of makana? What is this makana thing? I've heard of it somewhere. Can you explain what it is?
Lotus seeds, sir.
Oh, lotus seeds. Okay, I haven't done any work. Somebody had mentioned this to me earlier. Why don't one of you write a review article on makana? You'll publish it in Journal of Diabetology. You do the whole. This is how we learn. So you write all about makana, all the. But must be published in non-predatory proper journals. That's the only. You can't some unheard of fake journal. It should not be published. But the really good work. Please think. Answer, thank you for your comment. Manju George, thank you. All the rest, thank you. Okay, Sonia Joseph, thank you. Anju, one more was there. Let me just see. Conduct study in cashew nuts. How many numbers of can? So 43 grams. So I don't know the exact number. Maybe about 18, something like that. 15 to 18 cashew. Whatever fits into your palm. Roughly the same amount. About 40 grams, 38 grams to 43 grams. Roughly it comes for cashew, almonds. The same amount. Whatever fits into your palm. That's an easy way to remember. How many will fit in? Maybe 10, 12, 15? That will be an easy way to remember. any association gluten and diabetes. I'm not sure. A lot is spoken about gluten. I think it's overemphasized. This gluten part, gluten free, gluten free, gluten free. Now, the only condition is if you are sensitive to gluten, if you have celiac disease, then you should not take gluten. For everything, gluten is not bad. In all our wheat and everything contains gluten. We've all been eating it for years. What disease have we got? If you are sensitive to, same thing comes with lactose intolerant. People say, oh, but if I take milk, I'll get lactose intolerant. Then don't take anything. What we're saying is in general. We're not talking about one particular person who may have an allergy to tomato or brinjal. Then you should not use it. You should take brinjal. I am allergic. I didn't say for you. I said in general. You avoid it. There are people who are allergic to nuts. They can die. After taking groundnut, you'll choke and die. There are people. Then you should not take it. You avoid it. So whatever is good for you, you take. Otherwise, don't take it. Jackfruit, I saw the question. So I know that James Joseph has been doing a lot of work on raw jackfruit, particularly the jackfruit powder. Well, I have not done the study, but I've seen the studies. It's done by Unikrishnan and others in Pune. And see, the principle is good. You're replacing rice with a raw jackfruit flour. So obviously the glycemic index is lower, and they've shown some benefits. Although the reduction in the HbA1c was not statistically significant, but still it was good. So if that is something which you'd like to do to replace the high glycemic one with the lower glycemic one, and if this is something you like, you can definitely go ahead and take it. I have no problem with it. Cabbage in the diet, there is some view that cabbage is not particularly good for diabetes, and yeah, there are some controversies regarding that. I have not done particular work on cabbage. Generally, we say along with all the leafy vegetables, this also can be taken. I know for thyroid and goiter and all, there are some associations. So you'll have to individualize the diet according to different people. Soaked fenugreek. Fenugreek is good anyway, whether it is soaked or not soaked and all that. Fenugreek, there are a lot of studies done from NIN. Professor Raghuram has done a lot of studies, top class publications. Fenugreek is very high in fiber. It has additional, possibly glucose lowering things. So if you add fenugreek to something, it is definitely one of those where a lot of research has been done. So fenugreek is good. Resistant starch is again good, and that's what the slow release starch is, the resistant starch. Raw plantain, whether it reduces diabetes, I don't know. Certainly you can take it. Better than ripe plantain, which is definitely higher in GI and all that. But it also is good for good source of potassium. It's good for your blood pressure. So I don't think plantain should be totally avoided. You can take it as a fruit. But raw plantain, I don't know that reduce diabetes. You have to do more studies, but it's probably okay. Antioxidants and spices. Well, there are a lot of work on spices which have been done, and so they have been found to be supplements. So along with the tapioca, along with the fenugreek and all that, if you want to add something there, you can go ahead and then do. Paranganji is a popular thing that if you keep it overnight and take it, even in Tamil Nadu, it's very popular. And they say the glycemic index changes and all that. It's an area for future work. Again, if somebody has published evidence in that, let's publish it. I haven't done work. That's how our ancient people used to eat. So if there's nothing wrong in it. Raw tapioca versus dried tapioca. Now, tapioca is a starchy vegetable. So that category, it will come under, I know Kerala is very fond of tapioca, but you also know that that link of tapioca to fibrocalcific pancreatic diabetes and pancreatic stones. Professor Giverghese showed that. Unfortunately, I disproved his theory by looking at rats and mice, and where I fed them cassava, nothing happened to them. And in Kerala, we don't, in Tamil Nadu, we don't take tapioca, and we still have fibrocalcific pancreatic diabetes. So, but definitely if you want to take it as a tuber and that's something you like, you can definitely take it. You find weight changes, variation lipid profile? No, it is not. That is what you read a study, the Journal of Nutrition study. We've looked at LDL. So HDL, good cholesterol increased, LDL did not change. So the ratio of total cholesterol to HDL improved. Ratio of LDL cholesterol to HDL cholesterol improved. So LDL it was neutral and HDL improved, the good cholesterol improved. Weight did not change because we did isocaloric substitution. So we said if so much you take, that much you reduce in the other calories. First of all, it has great satiety value. If you eat nuts, suppose now I've not had my dinner now, but if I take some cashew or almond now, I'll definitely eat less of food. I'll eat less of carbohydrate there. So there is no, cashew is a big surprise for us when we did this. I thought LDL is going to go up, especially after what my teacher told me. It didn't change. It's not beneficial, but it didn't change. And HDL went up. In India, we have very low HDL. There are very few things to increase the HDL. And nuts is one of them. Almonds also increased HDL as well as cashew. Oh, there are more. Okay, that's just a comment. Oats, steel cut oats, I'm told is the best. So again, if you have highly polished oats, the GI goes up. But the less polished it is, and I think I'm told that the steel cut oats has lower GI. So I think that's it. I'll stop there.
Excuse me, sir.
I wanted you to mention about the Tandav.
Tandav, okay.
You
So Tandav among the physical activity, in fact, you should get my daughter to do a separate session on that. My daughter is one of course, she does a lot of diabetes research and all this she's involved in, especially in Diab was her contribution. But the other thing which she's very passionate about is physical activity. And she, after doing a lot of studies in Diab, cures, what she came to know was that people know about physical activity, but they're still not able to do it for various reasons. Flood will come, this will come, dog will bite you if you go in the street, there are no street lights, there's no pavement to walk, smoke is there, trucks are there, all kinds of problems, clothes, going to gym, women, all these problem is there. So she, came up with this idea of introducing dance as a form of physical activity, a form of HIIT actually, high intensity interval training, and you need to do it only for 12 minutes. So Tandav is the short form, it's acronym for reducing non-communicable diseases through dance. So that's Tandav. And she has done a lot of studies. She has done metabolic studies. She has done, glucose studies, weight studies. And the beauty of Tandav is 12 minutes is all you need. And it's set to Bollywood dance. So you can just dance away, and all women like to dance. So even youngsters can do it. There's no inhibition. You can do it in your own house. You don't have to go to the gym. It's free. You put on music and you dance. So there's no charge. You don't have to pay for the gym. You don't have to do anything. And so Tandav is proving to be, so she has made it online now. And if you go to social media, you'll find, I've also spoken one video about Tandav, and actually she gives a demonstration on that. So you go to YouTube. And if you want more details, write to us. I'll put you on to her, and maybe a good idea for you to invite her on one session only on physical activity. I wanted to focus only on diet in this talk. So maybe in the next talk, she can stick to physical activity and show you all the data on physical activity, including Tandav. And she can show a video and all that of Tandav.
definitely.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
tell me.
Nani. Yeah, I just
Yes.
wanted to ask, it's my view actually. I'm a registered dietitian based in Trivandrum, and
Yes.
I've been suggesting millet and all the whole grains. And as you said, it's true that it has the carbohydrate almost same like other grains. But what I have found is for the weight reduction, I basically deal with the weight reduction and pre-diabetes clients.
Yeah.
So what I have found is even though the carbohydrate is same, the satiety value, when you give a meal with millets, and definitely we all dietitians, we suggest healthy plate only, inclusion of protein and vegetables. So when you use millets instead of other grains in a healthy plate, definitely it is giving more satiety value. So in that case, instead of having 3 normal idlis, they may be eating only 2 millet idlis or dosa, whatever it is. So in that aspect, I think millets can be beneficial for weight reduction as well as diabetes. What is your?
I agree. I mean, absolutely, it is more a satiety value is more because the fiber is more and the
Yeah.
protein is more. So it's a very good way. The thing is that if you like millet, a lot of people like millets. I take millets. I take brown rice. I've switched over virtually white rice. I don't take at all now. So I've switched over. I don't find too much. In fact, we market brown rice. We are marketing a high fiber, Dr. Mohan's high fiber white rice. It was a new product from us with a higher fiber content, and it was white rice, but it had higher fiber content, lower GI. And there was some production problem after about 4 or 5 years of we published on that. And after 4 or 5 years, we couldn't keep up the production because what happens when you grow it, hybridization takes place, and then later on it becomes like ordinary rice. So after several cultivations, we had to give it up. And now we are working with Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, TNAU, trying to work on newer rice varieties. So if you can get a rice variety which is high in fiber, it solves the same thing as the thing. Brown rice also is quite filling, by the way. So
Yeah.
that also is quite filling. You can't eat much. It's very heavy and more difficult to digest, and therefore satiety value is good. So from that point of view, millets are good, and millets have some phytonutrients. Only thing is, we should try to get back millets in their natural form.
Yeah. So
Polish
that also, sir, if you see ragi, pearl millet and all is almost all the in the whole form only. I think the problem is with the other millets like foxtail, because we have done like we wrote along with my friend, we have written a millet recipe book recently with 100
Okay.
healthy recipes. So in
Okay.
that we were so like particular about keeping all those millets in the raw form. So if you see
Okay.
ragi, they cannot polish it. It will be in the raw, I mean, whole form only.
Okay.
Even pearl millet is also in the whole form only. So maybe we have to give more awareness to the patients to
Okay.
go for the whole grains. That is
Yeah.
one thing.
No, in
And
any
one more
case,
thing.
the government is also promoting it. It's a year of the millets. International Year of Millet ends with this year. So there's no doubt that millets are to be encouraged.
Yeah, and one more thing, sir, like about the low calorie, very VLCD diet, no, for this remission of diabetes.
Yeah.
Recently, we attended one session by Dr. Jyoti Dev in Trivandrum.
Yeah.
So he was telling about the remission and going very low calorie, 700 to 800 calories and all. They were showing some research results also. But as dietitians, our concern is the psychological, how filling is that low calorie diet. But to be frank, almost all endocrinologists are suggesting to go for the low calorie because they are not like much concerned about the psychology, because they are not sitting with their patients. So
No,
as
apart from all
yeah.
that, no, I started off by saying that's why at a national level, we are only talking about 10-15% reduction in carbohydrate. We are not talking more than that. It is not sustainable. 100% I can tell you it's not sustainable. You can show dramatic results. You can show weight loss in 3 months. You can show liver fat going away. You can show HbA1c becoming normal. You can show stopping of all drugs. All that you can show. And that's what all these, big businessmen have got into it. Thousands of crores of investment have gone into that, and therefore they have to now multiply that 1,000 crores into 3,000 crores, and so they have to make, it's a big market out there, and it's all being done by non-medicals. I'm happy Jyoti Dev is also doing it, but there are a lot of non-medicals doing it. They're software engineers, they don't know anything, but they only know this marketing technique, and they can get one success case, and that fellow will go on TV and he'll keep on advertising, and lot of money is pumped into it, and so these are not sustainable at all, totally unsustainable. And I'm sure if you go very low in carbs, then your fat will go up, then your cholesterol will go up. We have seen LDL and all shooting up with very low carbohydrate, because if you cut the carbohydrate to 10%, protein you cannot go more than 20%, 30, so you'll end up with 70%, 80% fat, which is definitely going to be harmful for you. So I think a balance of proper carbs, which is of course much lower than what you're taking now, and then fat, healthy fat, and then protein with fiber, and most of it mostly from vegetarian sources will be healthy. Doesn't mean you should not eat fish or chicken or white of the egg or something like that, but red meat is certainly bad. And I think it's ultimately individualizing it to the patient, and what we want is long term. Diabetes is not something in 3 months to get a medal after you have brought your A1C to 5.3, stop medicine, get a medal, and then stop. Diabetes is about living up to 80, 90 years with things. So you're talking, I tell patients, anything you do it for 10 to 15 years. Otherwise, don't do it. Don't do it for 3 months, 6 months. So they'll go from one diet to another diet, to this diet, to that diet, to, they're always trying something. Paleo diet, this diet, that diet, Atkins diet, or fruit diet, some other diet. All the time they're on some diet. I say, don't have to eat any diet. Eat what you're eating at home. Just cut down, follow plate concept. Enough, simple. It will be slow and steady, but that's how it should be. It's a long term. It's like running a marathon, not running 100-meter race.
Yeah, but unfortunately, as dietitians, we are facing that as a problem because slow results. Majority wants the fast result.
If you believe in it, so people don't come to me and they'll go to some corporation which is running it and take on private equity. Let them go. For that, I cannot change my method. No, what I believe in, 40 years, 50 years of research, what we have done, I cannot. My aim is to make my patients live up to 100 years of, and have succeeded in a very large number of people. That is my ultimate aim. Not to produce reversal, to produce this, to produce. Incidentally, now they are talking about reversal and remission. My first big paper on remission I published in 1987, 40 years ago. I've already published a large report on remission. We have shown it. That time, nothing was known about low calorie, carbohydrate diet, VLCD. There was no direct trial. There was nothing at that time. We already published a paper on 45 cases of remission. 1987, father and I published this paper. So it's not new. Why we didn't continue with that remission? Because there itself, out of the 45, 9 converted back to diabetes within 1 year. So we knew that there is a subgroup of people in whom you can develop that. Majority of people, you can only control it. You cannot do anything.
Yeah, but because in Trivandrum itself, we have many famous endocrinologists who are, advocating these things. And as patients, they come and ask, this doctor is telling we can reverse.
The problem is, I don't want to say it, but the problem is I'm not saying the endocrinologists in Trivandrum, but many of these companies which are doing, because they're not getting patients, they're paying doctors. Some of them are paid directly, salary. Some are paid per case. If they just refer somebody, they get fat commission. So it's a big racket. Better not to get into that. So they'll start talking good because they have to promote. So they're getting paid heavily. So let's not get into that at all.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
sir. Thank you so much, sir. I know you are a man of punctuality. While listening to you, we cannot limit our time, and we wanted to hear everything from you for just this moment. So that is our problem. Kindly excuse for the delay. But let me take few more minutes to thank everyone and you. Before that, I would love to, as a team, we all would love to congratulate you on this momentous award from our President, Honorable President Draupadi Murmu. And this is for his excellence in leadership in science and technology. This he has recently got. Thank you so much, sir. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, one more thing I wanted to say is, I have been feeded by Dr. Vijay that Dr. Mohan is a man of perfection. So I was a little anxious talking to you. So I couldn't properly convey this thing in your introduction. Sorry for that.
No problem.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful academic research feast. Actually, there is a beautiful poem by Vairamuthu about our Mahakavi Bharadiyar. Incidentally, today is Mahakavi Bharadiyar.
And Vairamuthu is a very close friend of mine. So when I got this award, he rang up and one poem he had made about that and he recited it to me. A very close friend of mine.
You should send it to us, sir. So, Vairamuthu had said about Mahakavi Bharadiyar, how come only able to conceive the fire in her home. It was written about Mahakavi Bharadiyar, but I always connect this with you too. You have that fire, the spirit to work, keep working. And you not only inspire us just with your research or academics or your medical knowledge, but also with the excellency in your personality. Every time we learn humbleness, we learn kindness, we learn how to teach. The session you made so perfectly, wonderfully designed with the new age technology and all those things is always an inspiration for us. And I sincerely thank you on the behalf of CNF team. Today our presidents have some fever and throat infection. So Sharanjaji couldn't talk. So another other members you have seen initially, even Uma is one among our founder members. So we all sincerely thank you for this wonderful nutritional and academic. This gave us a lot of insight. I hope all our young generation people also had got, because we have a lot of interest in doing things, but we are somewhere having some starting trouble. So again, you have inspired us in the field of nutritional research. Thank you so much. And
So this thing to you all is some of those things that you brought up, the things which I said I have not done work on. Search the literature, whether it's raw banana or raw jackfruit or whatever. Search the literature on the things which we discussed here and see what literature you have. That shouldn't be difficult for you to do. And write a small review. It can be 3-4 pages of this is what we have on this. Each of those things. What is the data that we have? If it is published in a reputable journal, and then we can publish it together. I'll help you to get it published. So that way, each one of you take one topic and write a small thing, and either in my journal or some other journal, I'll help you to get it published. That's a good starting point for academics for you. Because doing the research is one thing, but that you need a team. So that may not be possible for all of you to do. But to read up about it and to write about it, good examples of that is I work very closely with Meenakshi Bajaj. I work with Cheryl Salis. I work with Shilpa Joshi. I work with many people in different towns. So when we meet in a place, something will come up. And I'll say, for example, the nutritive sweeteners one. Of course, I've done my original work on that. It's in publishing. But I told Meenakshi, why don't you write a review on that? She wrote a beautiful review, which we are sending it off to one journal and getting it published. So like that, I think all of you all can take, those of you who have the time and the academic interest among your group, under your foundation, you can publish it, which means your foundation will get recognition and visibility. So people will know, oh, there is something called CNF in Kerala. And for something else, for a study, they may come to you. Let's do the study through CNF, and so you'll be able to. Everything starts small. We all started in one room with one person, like that we started. Then small steps, and then we go somewhere else later.
Thank you, sir. Actually, we have this dream of setting CNF as one of the nutritional society in research. And your words is going to inspire many more people.
You're all very talented people, well-read people. Doing research is not easy, but writing, even good reviews and writing balanced thing without commercial interests coming into it, that itself is an art, and without exaggeration and picking out only the correct journals, and it must have been peer reviewed. So those kind of things, that itself will add to your. You already got a newsletter, you already got a forum. Next, now think of publishing something. That's the way, and I'll be very happy to. And I have big team of nutritionists, Sudhavas, Devan, and Shobana, and many others are there in my team, so I can put you on to that.
Thank you so much, sir. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today and listening to sir. And thanks for the committee members for arranging such a wonderful diabetes webinar series. Thank you so much.
Be safe.
Thank you, sir.
And wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year well in advance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.